The Tulsa race riot of 1921 was the single worst incident of racial violence in American history. It began after Dick Rowland, a 19-year-old African-American shoe shiner, was accused of assaulting Sarah Page, a young white elevator operator, in the Drexel building in downtown Tulsa on May 30th, 1921. Spurred on by sensational newspaper coverage, a white lynch mob gathered the next afternoon outside of the Tulsa County Courthouse, where Rowland was being held, but black Tulsans, many of whom were military veterans, were equally determined to prevent the lynching. When a contingent of armed African-American men arrived at the courthouse, a shot was fired and the city was thrown into chaos. Throughout the long night and day that followed, gangs of whites attacked African Americans on the streets of Tulsa and lit the first fires along the edges of Greenwood, the city's primary African American community. Black defenders made a concerted effort to protect their homes, their families, and their businesses, but when dawn broke, they were simply overwhelmed by an armed white mob numbering in the thousands. Block by block, house by house, white Tulsans invaded Greenwood, broke into and looted homes and businesses, and then set them on fire. By the end of the day, Greenwood had been destroyed. The property loss was staggering. More than 1,256 homes and businesses covering more than 30 square city blocks had been burnt to the ground. Although the human loss has never been successfully determined, more than 300 people, both black and white, had been killed during the riot. Somehow I already knew about Black Wall Street. I knew it was in Oklahoma, but I didn't know where. I knew it represented the most affluent black community in all of America in the early 1900s during the age of segregation, and I knew that it was destroyed in a riot. To my surprise, a couple of my friends who knew I was in Tulsa asked me, what does Black Wall Street look like today? Hasn't been rebuilt, and if so, what's it look like? Well, no. On the other side of the railroad tracks, where the blacks were living, the Greenwood district is really nothing more than one side of the street with a couple businesses. There's a memorial park with some of these great plaques. There's a brand new minor league baseball stadium. I did go to a couple games because there wasn't much else to do down there. In fact, when I was at the memorial park, the only other people who came and joined me there were white people. The only other question I get asked is, are there black people in Oklahoma? Well, yeah, there was a little tribute to Alfre Woodard, and Ralph Ellison's from there, and the Gap Band. And look at that sign, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. That's what Gap stands for, those three streets. And by complete coincidence, I got to meet and chat with the author of Black Wall Street, Hannibal Johnson, who directed me to the Reconciliation Park. No one else did.